The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Dylan Mangan of the Southern Star and I'm joined by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. And before we get into things, I'd just like to give our listeners a gentle reminder to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now, on this week's podcast, we're celebrating the news that Inishannon's Jack Crowley will become the first West Cork man to participate in a Rugby World Cup in just a few weeks' time, following his inclusion in Andy Farrell's squad, which was announced earlier this week. We have two guests joining us to chat all things Jack. First up will be Dan Murphy, who is president of Bandon Rugby Club, where Crowley began his rugby career. He's been chatting to Kieran about Crowley's rise so far and how proud the club is of his achievements to date. We're also hearing from Régis Sonnes, who's a former Toulouse player and coach who was in West Cork from 2014 to 2018, and he worked with Crowley as a young man who was learning his trade. Régis is now back in West Cork working with both Bandon Rugby Club and Bandon Grammar School, so we'll be hearing from him later on as well. And Kieran, it's been another busy week in Star Sport HQ. There's been lots happening in West Cork sport, but before we have a look at some of the latest stories from this week, I just want to take the time to give ourselves a little pat on the back, as since our last episode was published, we've been nominated for an award. So the Star Sport podcast is a finalist in the Best Use of Digital category at the local Ireland Media Awards, and we're obviously delighted to be shortlisted. But aside from it being great for us, it's another mark really of the strength of West Cork sport that the podcast can be running for what is now 242 episodes and shortlisted in such a competitive category.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's superb. This podcast started off back in February 2019, which seems like a world ago now. I was a lot younger and fresher looking back then, Dylan. The years haven't been kind to me, but West Cork Sport has certainly been kind to the podcast, because the mission when we started off with the podcast, the idea was just to have another platform to spread the word about just how brilliant West Cork Sport is. Like, this corner of Ireland, like, it's just punching well above its weight in terms of sports, the breadth of sports, the talent of the sports people. And it's been a great journey these last couple of years. So to be nominated for a national award like this, it's more recognition of just those local heroes that we're so lucky to chat to week in, week out, and what they've done to put West Cork on the map, whether it's the West Cork League or the O'Donovan brothers doing what they do, or Fintan McCarthy or Phil Healy, Conor Horan, or whether it's Ashton O'Driscoll, the Inishannon Camogie captain, or whoever it may be. Like, we've had such an array of sports people on this podcast in these last couple of years. So to be nominated for an award, shortlisted for an award like this, is great. I'm quite biased. I think we should win it, because I think the Star Sport podcast is absolutely brilliant. But I would think that, considering that we do put it together, Dylan. But in all seriousness, no, it's super to be shortlisted for an award like this. So it's thanks to the team here in the Southern Star, the people, yourself, Dylan, and the people behind the scenes who make the podcast work, to our sponsors, Access Credit Union, who've been kind of great supporters of us over the years, and a huge thanks to the sports people who give up their time to come on the podcast to chat and to share their stories, and also to all our listeners who tune into us on a weekly basis, just to keep up to date with what's going on in West Cork sports. So thanks to everyone involved, and onwards and upwards for this podcast.
Absolutely. And I just want to give a little shout out as well to two people who have been involved a lot over the past year, because obviously you see our faces on the podcast every week, but the podcast is nominated for its achievements in 2022. And a big part of that was obviously our former host, Jack McCarran. So flowers to him, and also to Matthew Hurley, who has been putting in hard yards, doing lots of interviews for the podcast and lots of work helping us promote it as well. So I just thought I'd give the two of them a little shout out before we get going. And speaking of getting going, as a brand new season of the West Cork League, which kicks off this weekend. And Ger McCarthy has a great piece in this week's Star Sport looking at the year ahead. And Kieran, in the Premier Division, it looks like Drina Rangers will be the team to beat again this year.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that, Dylan. So Drina are the defending champions and they're going for the 3 in a row in the Premier Division. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on, because as we all know, there's been a change in management there. Don Hurley and Declan DC stepped aside, and they were like that trophy winning machine that Drina had for well over 2 decades. And we actually had them on the podcast there a couple of weeks back, and that's a podcast that's worth listening to again if any of our listeners missed it. But in their place have come Danny McQueen and Robert O'Regan. So I think it's going to be interesting just to see, can Drina maintain their dominance of the Premier Division this season, given that they've had a change in management. So that's one of the many questions that will be asked or will be answered over the next couple of months. And also, who is going to challenge Drina? Will it be the usual suspects? Dunmanway Town have the quality. They have the quality to challenge Drina. Clonakilty Soccer Club have been there so close over the last couple of years. Will this be finally their season that they can make the breakthrough and get their hands on some silverware? What about Bunratty United? They came up last year they came up the season before last, out of the championship and really hit the ground running. Then you have the newly promoted sides like Celan and Beara. How are they going to get on in the Premier? Could we have a bolter from the pack who could challenge Drina? So there's loads of questions to be asked and to be answered over the coming months. But it's just great to see the West Cork League back in action.
Absolutely. Some of the fixtures there just quickly as well. This weekend on Saturday at 6 p.m, the aforementioned Drina are hosting Miz and Hob A. And then on Sunday, there's 4 games. There's 3 taking place at 11 a.m. Beara United are hosting Tokers Celtic. Bunratty United hosting Ceylon FCA, who have just come up from the championship, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on this year. And then Clonakilty Soccer Club hosts Skibbereen AFC, while last year's runner-up Dunmanway Town face off against Lyre Rovers at 2:30 p.m. on Sunday as well. So we'll be checking in with that over the course of the season, and hopefully there'll be some great games this weekend for everyone to go out and watch as well. Now, this weekend on Sunday, also, Paul O'Donovan and Fintan McCarthy will be putting their title on the line at this year's World Rowing Championships. And Kieran, last time out on the boat was the pair's first loss in about 4 years. And obviously they'll be looking to right that wrong over the next week or so.
Yeah, so what this is for our listeners, it's the World Rowing Championships. They're on in Belgrade. They're starting on Sunday, which is September 3rd, and they're running through to September 10th. And this is a very important World Championships. Not only are there world titles up for grabs, but there's also an Olympic qualification for the Games in Paris next year up for grabs as well. So it's a really big competition. So let's take the lightweight men's double sculls for a second. That's the boat we're so familiar with Paul O'Donovan and Fintan McCarthy in it. They're going for their 3rd world title. They're going for a hat-trick. They were world champions in 2019 and 2022. So what they'll be looking for, obviously, to win, to get world gold, to maintain their dominance. But they need to finish within the top 7. If they finish within the top 7 at this upcoming Worlds, they will qualify the boat for the Olympics in Paris next year. And when I say qualify the boat, what that means is it is actually that the boat is qualified, but the partnership in the boat won't be confirmed until closer to the date. So when you're talking about an Olympics, it's the boat that qualifies, not the rowers. So Paul and Fintan will be looking for a top 7 finish, as will Eva Casey from Skibbereen and Mags Crimmin in the Irish lightweight women's double. So there are 2 boats to look out for. We also have Jake McCarthy, who's racing in the lightweight men's single scull, but that's a non-Olympic event. So he cannot qualify for the Olympics because the lightweight men's single is not an Olympic event. In lightweight rowing, it's only the lightweight double that is an Olympic class event. So you mentioned there too, Dylan, about Paul and Finton's very rare defeat, and that came at the World Rowing Cup 3 in July. They got pipped by France in the final that day, and it was 0.09 of a second, which is incredibly close. Like, it's not even 1/10 of a second they lost out by. And you're right, they hadn't lost a race together since 2019. I think it was a 21 race winning streak that the two skib rowers had been on. But all good things come to an end. I think in context is important here that Paul and Finton hadn't rowed together in the boat since last year's World. So they went from September last year to the World Cup 3 in July without rowing together because they've just been, Paul has been so busy with college and his graduation and work and so on. So what we've seen since is that they have got back in the boat together. So we're hoping that Paul and Finton, that usually when they get in that boat, it hums, it rocks. And I think we'll see that at the Worlds next week. They'll be keen to assert their dominance again to show everyone that they are the crew to beat heading into the Olympics next year. So it's going to be an exciting weekend, a week of action in Belgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd imagine that maybe even that loss could be a good thing, like kind of a motivating factor for them going into this week, and especially when it was so close.
Exactly that. I remember after they lost that final, and they still came away with a silver from a World Cup regatta. Finton on his Instagram page had a picture up, and it was like, the fire is lit, as in they won't take it lying down. They know like there's bigger battles ahead, and obviously the Olympics is number one, then the Worlds is really important as well. So where they lost was in a World Cup regatta, and to be honest, it's not the worst place to lose, because the way or the level that Paul and Finton operate at, they're the very, very best, you know. So they're chasing Olympic gold, they're chasing world gold. So I think it's, in terms of motivating factor, yeah, you know, definitely they'll be keen not to taste defeat again. But also, I just think it's going to make it really interesting, because that French crew who won, they know now that they can beat Paul and Finton, albeit it's a Paul and Finton that didn't race together for 6-8 months, and I need to stress that. And the Swiss double was going quite well too in the first two World Cup regattas. So it could make for a really exciting event next week in Belgrade. But when push comes to shove, knowing the calibre of Paul and the class of Finton, and looking at the body of evidence what these two have done in that boat over the last couple of years, it's really hard to look beyond them unless something drastic goes wrong. So hopefully we'll be here in the week after next talking about a couple of skipperine rowers having qualified their boats for the Olympics, and then we can start the countdown to the games, and we can start the petition to our MD to get the Star Sport podcast to Paris next summer. I wouldn't mind a couple of weeks in France, Dylan.
Yeah, a live episode. I think we could do one daily from the Paris Olympics, I'm sure, if we really had to. So we'll continue petitioning for that as and when it happens. And this weekend is also a defining one, though, for Kieran, for West Cork clubs in the hurling championships, as there's a lot on the line. Just quickly there, some of the clubs like Newcestown are through to knockout rounds in Senior A, but they'll be targeting a win against Corsi Rovers to guarantee a semi-final spot. You've Bandon, who are in relegation trouble in the Premier Intermediate. Kilbrittain are also in trouble. If they lose, they could go out of the Premier Junior Championship, and Argideen Rangers will be looking for a win against table toppers Glen Rovers in their group as well. So there's plenty to look forward to this weekend, but a lot on the line, like I said.
Yeah, there's loads on the line for so many West Cork clubs. Like we said, Barry Rowe are already through to the knockout stage, so almost the pressure is off ahead of their game on Friday evening. They're playing Milford in Coachford at 6:30 p.m. But Newcestown as well, and I was looking there, they've won the group regardless of the result in their final round game against Coursies because of their head-to-head results against Blarney and Ballyhay. So they're another team with the pressure off going into the weekend. But it's the likes of Kilbrittain. I'm looking, they are playing Ballygarvan in Brinny on Friday. That's a 6:30 p.m. throw-in. That's a game Kilbrittain need to win. And they'll want to win, obviously, to get through to the knockout stages, but just to get back in track. Losing to Barry Rowe the last time out, that will have hurt. That will have stung Jamie Wall's men. So they know that they need to get back on the horse. They know that they need they need a big result here just to get their campaign going again, because they have been one of the, I suppose, the top teams from West Cork in the county championship over the last couple of years, but it just hasn't fired for them so far this year. So that's a big one. And also Bandon. Bandon are in their Premier Intermediate hurling group. And at the moment, Bandon are rock bottom of Group A. So they're in a spot or bother. So if Bandon lose, they're going to be in the relegation playoff. If Bandon win and Ballincollig draw or win, then Bandon will avoid finishing bottom. And if Bandon win and Castlelyons win, then Bandon would need a superior scoring difference than Dungourney and Ballincollig to finish higher than fourth. So that's a lot of permutations right there about Bandon. But the bottom line is they need a performance, and more so they need a result against Dungourney in Clodove on Sunday. So there's an awful lot to play for a couple of West Cork teams this weekend. So when we chat again on next week's podcast, we'll know exactly who's through to the knockout stages and what their path to glory looks like. And we could be talking about a West Cork team in a relegation final as well. So like we said, Dylan, a defining weekend for West Cork hurling clubs in the county championships.
Yeah, it's getting to the interesting part of the season when you probably need a degree in mathematics or something to figure out all the permutations. So we'll wait until next week and we'll know exactly what happens then. We're going to take a very quick break, but we'll be back in a moment to chat all things Jack Crowley ahead of the World Cup.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Now, welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. And like I said at the top of the show, this week we are celebrating as Jack Crowley has become the first West Cork man to be named in an Ireland Rugby World Cup squad, following his inclusion in Andy Farrell's squad, which is announced on Sunday. The Inishannon man will be part of the Ireland team travelling to France. And Kieran, it's a huge moment for West Cork rugby and West Cork sport in general.
100%. This is just great news for the area and great news for West Cork sport. Obviously for Bandon Rugby Club and Bandon Grammar, where he honed his skills and his talent, but it's just recognition for West Cork rugby in general, but also for West Cork sport. And we touched at the start of this podcast by referencing the fact that this podcast has been nominated for a national award, and it's thanks to just the depth of talent and the excellence of West Cork sport that has put the podcast in the frame for the award, but also it's put local fellas like Jack Crowley at such a level where he's now going to a Rugby World Cup. It's an incredible story, because you just think back to 2021, January 2nd, 2021, he came on in the 67th minute against Ulster up in Kingspan Park. That was his debut for Munster. That's only 2.5 years ago. And look where Jack Crowley is now. He's heading to the Rugby World Cup in France with Ireland, likely as the backup to Johnny Sexton, like ahead of Ross Byrne. So he looks like he's kind of second in line there, and just behind Sexton. Of course, that could change, but it just shows you how far he's come. And it's just a great West Cork success sports story. And we've been so lucky over the last number of years. We've had so many of these, but this is just a really important one for West Cork sport, but also for West Cork rugby, because we've spoken on this podcast before about just how rugby is booming in West Cork right now. It's just getting bigger and stronger. Like you've the Gavin Coombs, Liam Coombs, John Hoddett, Fineen Wycherley, Inya Breen, you've Josh Wycherley, you've Cian Hurley now from Clonakilty in there. Look at the Munster women's team now. You've Abby Salter-Townsend, Gillian Coombs, Michelle O'Driscoll from Lepis there. Saskia Wycherley is in the training panel. And that's just some. Also like the likes of Inya Breen, who's injured at the moment. Laura Sheehan from Urhan, who played with Ireland and Munster ladies team as well. And that's just some of the names coming to my mind straight away, thinking of West Cork rugby. And it's just I suppose a quick synopsis of just how successful rugby players have been from this region. But now Jack Crowley's taken it to a new level. He's a West Cork man going to a Rugby World Cup. We've been so lucky in the past, the likes of Laura Guest from Clonakilty. I think she featured in 2 or 3 World Cups, a superb player herself, and the greatest female rugby player that West Cork has ever had. We're talking here about Jack Crowley, 23, just flying the flag for West Cork Rugby again. And it's that you can see it, you can be it, because he's a local lad and he's hitting great heights. So it's just huge for the region, Dylan.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll hear from our two guests in a moment about kind of Jack Crowley's career or his kind of rise to stardom. But I want to focus a little bit on the World Cup itself as well, because what's interesting, I think, about his inclusion there, you mentioned he's going to be most likely back up to Johnny Sexton, but he'll definitely get game time as well, because we saw in the warm-up games he covered at centre, he can cover at full-back as well. So he's not only a specialist who's very good at number 10, but he can kind of do a little bit of everything as well, which kind of at his age, like you mentioned, 23, is incredible.
That's exactly it. You know, he's such a talented player. And even talking to the coaches who coached him up along, and talking, obviously, we're going to hear from Dan Murphy and Régis Sonnes in the next couple of minutes. And they're two men who know Jack better than us, and they can wax lyrical about the talent that he is. But he's definitely going to see game time over. I'm here now trying to pull up the matches that Ireland have. I think we're starting on September 9th, is it, against Romania. I have him here now. So yeah, September 9th against Romania, and then the following weekend against Tonga. So they're games where we could see Jack Crowley featuring, because after that we're hitting two huge games. September 23rd is the big one against South Africa, and then you have a 2-week break before Ireland take on Scotland. And if we're being quite honest too, we know there's an attritional rate when it comes to rugby at that level. Like, kind of touch wood, Ireland won't suffer injuries, but the odds are they will. Look at Cian Healy last weekend, and he's missed out on the Rugby World Cup. So who knows how the break's going to fall over the next couple of weeks. But we will see Jack Crowley there. And I think what we've seen too from him so far in an Ireland jersey is he's just not fazed by the step up. You know, he's a very cool and calm individual, even though for someone so young, he only turned 23 back in mid-January, but he just takes it all in his stride. But that's almost the position that he's in, you know, kind of an out-half has to be that cool head in the midst of the war and the drama on the pitch. So he has all the attributes, and I think what we've seen over the last couple of years, or even the last 6 months, is just how he's moving his game to the next level. Look at that URC semi-final against Leinster, that drop goal, like in the 78th minute. What a clutch moment, you know, what an incredible moment for Jack. But to have the presence and the wherewithal, and then the composure and the skill and the calmness to pull off that drop kick, which was the winning score against Leinster, that was a kind of another indication. Okay, Jesus, there's something about this fella. And then obviously in the URC final against the Stormers, he was sensational as well. So he's putting in big performances in big games. And what's exciting, Dylan, is we know he's very much at the start of his journey. Like, he's only just 23, you know, so he's a whole career ahead of him. To be in a Rugby World Cup now would be a huge experience for him. He'll get his game time. Hopefully he'll take it. But we do know there'll be a mass exodus from West Cork over the next couple of weeks. Whoever's last out, turn off the lights, sort of job, because so many will be going out there to support one of our own in a World Cup. But isn't that great to have a fellow who played at Bandon Rugby, played at Bandon Grammar, is going to be playing on the Rugby World Cup stage? And that's just, like I said, great for rugby and sport in the region. And we're lucky enough now to catch up with Dan Murphy and to chat about it, but also great to get Régis Sonnes on the podcast, because Régis and Jack have a great relationship. Régis was here before from 2016 to 2018 with Bandon Rugby Club and Bandon Grammar, so he coached Jack in those very formative years. And there was interviews in the last week where Jack was waxing lyrical about the influence and the significance that Régis had on him as a youngster growing up. So they have that connection. So it was great to get the thoughts of two important figures in Bandon Rugby, just to see the significance of Jack being called up, what it means to the club and the region, and just tell us a small bit more about Jack as well.
Yeah, we're going to hear first from Dan Murphy, and then we'll play Régis Sonnes' interview straight after. So we'll be back in a moment.
Dan, what does this mean to Bandon Rugby Club to have a player who came through the ranks going to Rugby World Cup?
I suppose there's been a lot of talk about it over the past couple of months, and what would happen if, and what had happened maybe, and this and that. But I suppose after yesterday, it's a reality, and I suppose from a club point of view, it's reality starting to sink in. It's huge. It is huge from a club point of view. There's a lot of excitement among the club, but I suppose as well at the moment it's the off season, so it's difficult to try to gauge it. I suppose the underage are back, the minis are back training next Saturday, and I suppose that's where you'll see the big impact of it. I mean, I spoke before to you about Jack coming out and presenting the prizes at the end of season barbecue last May, and it was in that scenario you could see the hero worship that the young kids have of him, and I suppose, to be honest, the old kids and the adults have the hero worship as well. They might be as showing it, like, but there's a massive amount of pride and respect and delighted for him.
Before we look more closely at Bandon's role in the development of Jack and helping him to get where he is, just a quick word of what this means for just West Cork rugby in general. We've spoken before, Dan, about how rugby is in the crest of a wave here for the last number of years. Like, it's brilliant to see in the men's and women's side of the game, boys and girls, that rugby is going so well. But what this does, what Jack going to World Cup for Ireland, it just takes it to the next level again.
Absolutely. I'd hate to think we're on the crest of a wave. I'd prefer to think that the wave is still building, that we're not at the top of it, about to crash over on top of ourselves again. But I suppose what it means from it's only my opinion, Kieran, like, but my opinion is that Jack going to the World Cup, it's probably recognition for all the work done by all the clubs in West Cork and the volunteers. And we spoke before. Like, there's tremendous amount of volunteers within our own club. We have about 85 underage coaches with us every Saturday. We have adult coaches. We've volunteers throughout the club, and you've that in Skibbereen, Bantry, Kinsale, and Manway, throughout Clonakilty, throughout the whole West Cork family. And I suppose that you have a lot of clubs have gone through and got players within the Munsters team over the past couple of years. And then you've had a number of them have got capped for Ireland. And I suppose Jack is the first West Cork man to go to the big show, the World Cup. And it's a massive moment, but I suppose it's a massive recognition of what is going on in West Cork. We spoke before that, like, in the previous coming of Munster, you had a very strong Tipperary sense of it. I don't know if you remember that, like when you Quinny and you Dennis Leamy and you'd all that gang, but now we seem to have just a massive coming of West Cork, and I think it's recognition for what's been done in all the clubs in West Cork, guys that we would have played with and played against over the years, they've gone back to their club, and that's the natural thing that happens in rugby, that they just put into volunteer hours and try to build the kids' dreams, so.
And work is certainly paying off. Like you said, it's the people on the ground, the volunteers, the coaches, everyone involved in the clubs. And that feeds through to the players. And we arrive at a moment like this where we have a West Corkman going to a Rugby World Cup. But talk to us about Jack and Bandon Rugby Club. What are your own memories of Jack coming up along? Was he always a precocious talent? Was he always one to watch?
But I like, Jack is still very young. Like, Jack is still 23, I think. So, like, it is like your memory of Jack, as with all kids, like, would be that probably remember from maybe 15, 16 onwards and things like that, but he was part of a great team. He was part of a team that went on and won All Ireland at under 18.5 level. But we spoke before, I remember seeing him playing, I think there was under 13, they were playing down in Mahon against Cork Con, and you could see that, not exceptionally that Jack was, whatever, but like, you could see that they were a good team and that they gelled well together. And as with all good teams, the guys that are top quality come to the top. And I suppose that happened then as Jack got older. Talking to his coaches that would have coached him, they said that Jack was always a guy that wanted to do the extras, and he he was probably one of the first guys into the gym doing the S&C. Before it was standard with S&C. We trained with S&C with all our 16s, 15s, 16s upwards now at this stage. Jack was doing it when he was doing 15s, 16s, and the club wasn't organising it. So then he developed and he blossomed in the under 18 team that time, and in the grammar school senior cup team. You know, he slotted in 10 and just took control, and you could see it. He was a bossy 10, and he was a cheeky 10. He knows where he is at. He was always took the ball flat in the gain line, and always looking for work. You know, so.
And you told me a great story before, Dan. We were talking there about the in the season barbecue, the awards night you had back in May. But rewind 10 years ago, and Jack was one of the young fellas at that Bandon Rugby Club in the season awards night, and it was a couple of big Munster names and current Irish. Well, one of the current Irish international was there. So tell us that story again.
That was, I suppose, the time that I suppose the club won the first All Ireland back about 10 years ago. I think 2012, 2013, and that year that we won it was a special awards. Obviously, having won a Munster competition and All Ireland competition, first time in the club's history. Paul Barr would have been involved with us at the time, and you know, he'd have known Peter O'Mahony and Simon Zebo quite well, and he invited Peter O'Mahony and Simon Zebo down to present the medals that day. And obviously, you know, seeing these guys around the club, they were big heroes that time, and still are big heroes as well. Like, but I remember talking to Jack then, because Jack was invited to the same job for us this year, himself and Shane Daly. Shane Daly is he's the son of our immediate past president Billy Daly, and the two of them were good enough to come down and give up their time. And I remember slagging him, saying, "Listen, lads, there's about 2 hours hard work here now, just suck it up." And next thing it suddenly dawned on me, I said, "Actually, Jack, do you remember when Peter O'Mahony and Simon Z were doing the same for you?" And next thing it kind of suddenly resonated. Yeah, actually, I remember that. And next thing suddenly thinking, well, he said, "Look, you're in that spot now," and it's just how the thing goes full circle, you know. I suppose then as well, like that's that probably makes it, you know, makes it what effect will have in the club as well, in that, you know, all kids, they all dream of being the next Brian O'Driscoll or Ron O'Gara or Paul O'Connell or Johnny Sexton, and that's just the way it is, the nature of it. But no, the young fellas, they can dream of being the next Jack Crowley, you know, the fella who started in Bandon and is playing the World Cup. And I suppose what's easier about being the next Jack Crowley is that it's easier to identify him because he's a local guy. He's from Inishannon. He's played with Bandon Rugby Club. Has played with thing. See him walking on the street, so it's easy to identify that hero worship. So the local aspect of it is very, very strong, you know. So
that visibility, Dan, you're dead right. It's so key to this, because those young boys and girls, they can see Jack Crowley. You could almost touch Jack Crowley if he's in the club, you know, like he's very much a local person, a local man who came up through the ranks with Bandon Rugby Club. And what I like about this story too is that Jack's family on both his mom and dad's side are so entrenched in the club, like kind of from his father and his uncles and so on, and his brothers as well. So can you talk to us a small bit about almost the tradition of the Crowleys with Bandon Rugby Club?
Yeah, I suppose that's very strong as well, Kieran. Like, I mean, you know, that like the Crowley and the Burke family on his mum's side, like they were very, very strong people within the town. They're local people. They're living in Inishannon. Their brothers and sisters are local people. They're living in Inishannon. You can see them around the place. I suppose within the club, then you have Jerry, who is Jack's brother. He's still playing with the junior team. His cousin Matty still playing with it. His cousin Emily is very involved. She's one of the mainstays of the girls section, and girls rugby is becoming very, very important. And only for Emily, and I've said this before, only for Emily Foley and Emma Lovell, like, we'd be struggling with a girls section inside North Club, you know. So like, to see them, but like, you know, same old thing. Like, I mean, Factor Maria would pop in, and they'd be interested in seeing Jerry play just as much as seeing Billy play with Connor or Jack play with Munster, you know. So you'd see them on a Sunday at a junior game just as easily you see them as a whatever, you know. So that's the great thing about it. And you know, they're local family, so they're well known around the place and easy to talk to. Simple, humble people.
one of the great aspects about this story too, Dan, is just it's going to, for the next couple of weeks, it's going to shine a light on Bandon Rugby Club, because obviously Jack, his profile is growing and growing and growing. He's 6 caps already. He's the first full international to come from Bandon Rugby Club. And like we said earlier, he's only 23. He's almost like he's at the start of his journey. Like I was just checking there, he made his first senior appearance for Munster. It was January 2021. And look where he is now in August, September 2023. He's come that far in such a short space of time. And we know that there's more to come. Yeah, it's incredible. So just for the club, like, and we touched on it earlier, you must be so proud of the role that you played in Jack's story, but also that Jack is representing Bandon Rugby Club on such a huge stage.
Yeah, but I don't know. I haven't spoken to Jack, but I would imagine that Jack not only is proud to be representing Bandon, but in Inishannon in the greater West Cork area. That's the nature of him, you know. That's what he's like. He's fierce proud, and he would take it, obviously, you know, that he came through the ranks in Bandon Rugby Club. He came through Bandon Grammar School and went on. It happened really, really quickly. It happened very, very quickly for him once it happened. You know, like there was a time 2 years ago where Jack, you know, couldn't get a game within Munster. And I think that once he was allowed to show his talent, it was easy to pick him then, but he just needed the opportunity. That's the great thing about Jack as well, is that you know, like, it's grand to have the GE dream. You got to seize the dream as well and seize the moment. And he seized the moment. He you know, there's that story about him bringing that my cat, looking what extra should he do and things like that. So he's not afraid to do it. He's not afraid to put himself in the shop window. And I think, you know, it's grand to talk the talk, but he was able to walk the walk as well. And that's why he's getting what he totally deserves at this stage, you know.
And finally, just on Jack again, anyone who's met him, he's very confident in himself. He carries this inner confidence, but he's so calm and cool, and he doesn't seem like he's fazed by much. And was he always like that coming up along? Did he always take everything in his stride?
I don't know. Like any time that I knew Jack, as a young fella, he was always the same. Really, he was always the same. But as I said, when under pressure in a big game, he was always the go-to person. He was always the relaxed guy who was looking for work, who was looking to take it on, looking to see, okay, we're in a bit of a hole. How do we stop digging and get out of here and things like that? So yeah, absolutely, you know. So I think you have to be, if you're playing that position as well, Kieran, you know, small, but I think that you have to. I mean, you only get so many seconds on the ball. You got to deliver it. There's no point in being frazzled and panicking either. And that's certainly not what he is, like, you know. He's cool, relaxed, and what's going on in his head, I don't know, but he certainly doesn't show it.
He's doing all the right things at the moment. It's going to be an exciting couple of weeks for Jack, but also an exciting couple of weeks for Bandon Rugby Club. So hope you soak it all in, Dan, and I hope you enjoy it all.
And we will do. As I said, we're back training with the minis on Saturday. That's going to be a big occasion for us. You asked as well about, you know, like Jack coming through the club. Jack came through the club same as every other kid comes through the club. And from a club point of view, it's safety, it's enjoyment, and it's improvement, and giving the child to be, as the well-known saying, be the best possible example of yourself that you can be. And that's what the club is all about, really. And looking forward to seeing Jack wearing the green in France, and no doubt we'll be shouting him in the club, and we'll be shouting him over there as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Dan.
No problem, Kieran.
Régis, welcome back to West Cork. What's it like to be back in Bandon again?
Thank you. I'm very proud and happy, and I met a lot of people and saying like you know, welcome back. And it's very positive for me, because I feel the atmosphere, the positive atmosphere, and everybody is motivated, and it pushed me, you know, in the right way with big motivation. I want to achieve it and to achieve something. And so, yes, I'm happy for it and proud to come back.
Why did you decide to come back to Bandon? You're going to be involved with the rugby club and the grammar school again, but what brought you back here?
I come back because I'm free, and and I don't want to be involved at that moment. I think perhaps for the long time in the professional way, really in the professional way, mostly in France. I'm not motivated for it, and not, I think my philosophy, my personality is not good enough for this system or something like that, the professional, like in France. And so I don't want to be involved there. And I came back in France for Toulouse, and something I need to have to achieve something in Bandon and the club, in the school, and in my mind, in my heart, in my body. I knew that I will come back because I come back in Toulouse, and so I need to come back to finish my plan and the objectives and to achieve what we want to achieve before. I don't know when, but I will do the maximum to do it, and mostly enjoy the life here with my family. I have a lot of friends, and like I said at the start, I receive a lot of good vibration or positive, and everybody is happy and very happy. And so I come back because it's my West Cork family, and I'm a West Cork man, like I said, and it's special for me. So I achieved some things in France with others, but here I need to come back for it and to help if I can, or to try to help and to do something with my family, West Cork family.
It's great to have you back in West Cork, and Bandon Rugby is delighted to have you back too. When you were here the first time, you got to know Jack Crowley. He was in school in Bandon Grammar School. What stood out for you? What made him so special?
Jack, it's a special player, and the start and the story is beautiful because we start in fact together. Because when I came, they say to me, "Okay, take the Bowen team." And the war team was the first years in the school, transition year, and he was in transition year, fourth year, and he was here with others, So I start with him, with others, with that team, and we grow together, in fact. And so we have a very good connection, and mostly he played with Bandon Rugby Club. So I cross him a lot because he plays with under 16. After under 18, he was All-Ireland champion with under 18. In fact, he was not my team, but it was the team where I was involved, and I was coach with them. So we have very good connection. And Jack was a special guy because like a captain, and something happened with him, but he worked, and I start with him, but never at that moment, I didn't thought that he will be now in that stage, in the World Cup with Ireland. But in fact, now, with the feedback and the experience, he was special in mentality, hard worker, a very good example for the lads, for the team, and like saying my son, it's a clutch player. So with the Bowen and the under 18, he won some games, and I saw that with the Munster, he won some games, him with a very good decision, and at the end of the game, so he's special in the mentality, is very hard, very strong. So he's special, and I'm proud to cross him in my way, in my life, like a coach. And here, everybody is proud too.
What do you think makes Jack so good? Because his rise has been incredible. He made his senior debut with Munster in January 2021. 2 years later, he's now going to a World Cup with Ireland. It's incredible.
It's crazy, and no fear. And very confident on his, what he's doing. He knows that when the job, when you work hard, one time you receive positives, So this is in education for me is very good because hard worker receive all the time fruit of the job what you did before. So he is on the way. He he's confident. He knows if he work well, trained hard like that, something could happen. And I saw the newspapers last week like that. He say, why not? And why not? Yeah, why not? we try. It's a life, you know. You have to, and I think he is in that way. No limit. He try, and if he can't achieve it, if he did the maximum, okay, I accept it. And I think this is his mentality. So I love it, you know, because he could. It's after on the game, the pitch is the same, taking initiative, you know, to win like that, watching with intelligence, with smart, to be smart. It's something happen with him like that, you know. So just take initiative, try. Why not? And after we'll see at the end. And in fact, it's a success for him.
How good can Jack be? How high can he go?
I don't know. We don't know because like I say, I start with him in August, like with the Bowen. He was a very good player, but never I thought that he could be at that stage now. And now I don't know because all the steps, you know, some players, okay, with Bowen is good player, but when you go with senior, okay, one of the best player, and when you grow with the team and the level, they're still here, they're still alive, you know, they're still and some lads are like that. With more the level grow or is up, more they are, you know, in the standards. So we don't know, but I hope it will be the next 10 for Ireland for a long time.
It's going to be an exciting few weeks. The Rugby World Cup kicks off very soon. What's your thoughts on the World Cup? Who are the teams to watch?
I think New Zealand, France, normal, and Ireland. After the last time, South Africa, very, very strong, you know, and no. They are working on this, you know, like that, and the shadow, and they are strong. The last game against New Zealand is huge for them, you know. After New Zealand could be okay, bad, but we don't speak really a lot about South Africa, and South Africa is difficult. After, now the fourth team for me is Ireland, France, New Zealand, and South Africa. After we don't know, you know, some surprise could come.
And there's some big games on the way. All those four teams are on the same side of the draw, so we're going to get some huge games. Yeah. Do you feel, Régis, that Ireland can make an impact at this World Cup? We've never got beyond the quarter-final. Have we the team? Have we the players to do it this time?
After the World Cup, I don't know, it's totally different, you know, and the start is very important, and the confidence like that. But I feel it's a good team, and the spirit of the team is strong, and the confidence is strong, you know. And I know that the structure of the game is very strong and very hard, you know. And you feel they are not very good like the last game. Okay, they know and they win all the time. They win, so it's very important. After, effectively, psychologically, the quarterfinal, it's a gap. It's a cap for the team and the Ireland people, you know, because everybody say quarterfinal. Yeah, after it's two more, you know, to win. Mm-hmm. But yeah, good. I think they are ready to be in the minimum in the semi-final because and the team is not only 15 players now with Jack like that, you know, you have 20-25 players ready to play in the high level, and they not change really the level of the team. This is very important in the competition like World Cup too.
A very exciting few weeks ahead, Régis. And if it's an Ireland-France semi-final, we'll get you back on the podcast for a chat. But thank you so much for now, and welcome back to West Cork again.
Thank you. Thanks a million.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
And welcome back to the Star Sport podcast again. And Kieran, it's time to take a look ahead at what's going to be in this week's Southern Star Sport. And I want to flag, I usually let you do it, but first of all, I want to flag a specific photo that's in this week's edition, because we heard a lot there from both Dan and Régis about the influence that Jack Crowley can have and how he can be an inspiration to younger people in West Cork who want to play rugby, where there's a great photo of a young Jack Crowley being inspired himself in this week's Star.
Oh, this is a brilliant photo, and I won't keep our listeners too long on this, but I heard about this photo a couple of months back chatting to Dan Murphy, that it was at an in-the-season Bandon Rugby Club barbecue and awards night back in, 10 years ago now, that a young Jack Crowley met Simon Zebo and Peter O'Mahony, and I was like, I need to get this photo. Who has this photo? Will somebody please get me this photo? And the search went on, and in fairness to the Bandon Rugby Club, and also thanks to Jack's father, Faulkner, who I met at a West Cork Sports Star Monthly Award for Jack a couple of months ago. I was saying to Faulkner as well, I said, I need to get my hands on this photo. And they came up trumps. On Tuesday, I got the photo. It landed in my inbox. It was taken by Damien Healy of Bandon Rugby Club. So huge thanks for him. And I just think it's a very important photo, Dylan, because it shows a young Jack Crowley shaking the hand of Simon Zebo, who was then a Munster star, and Peter O'Mahony and Dennis Hurley are flanked either side. And it's almost that, what we talked about earlier, that, and Dan Murphy kind of said it, about that hero worship, as in Jack Crowley looked up to the likes of Zebo and Peter O'Mahony, and he wanted to follow in their footsteps. And look where he is now 10 years later. And we'll have young kids, young boys and girls in West Cork meeting Jack Crowley. They'd have met him already. They'll have their photos taken with him. But who's to say that they won't be in that same position in 10 years' time, representing Ireland on the Women's World Cup or the Men's World Cup? So it's a brilliant photo, because it just shows the journey that Jack has been on. So that's well worth checking out in Thursday's Southern Star. And we've had loads more beside it. Just sticking on the rugby team for a second, my last word column is about Gavin Coombs, and the headline is, what more must Gavin do? So what this is about is Gavin was cut from the Ireland rugby squad there, nearly 2 weeks ago now. So he obviously didn't make selection for the Rugby World Cup. But Gavin is coming off the back of a string of really impressive seasons. But he just cannot get that chance with Ireland to show what he can do. So I caught up with Alan Quinlan, the former Munster and Ireland rugby player, just to chat about this, just to see what can Gavin do to get that break with Ireland. So that column is well worth checking out, and we've loads more beside it. We mentioned the World Rowing Championships are starting on Sunday, and what I've done is I've had a look at a lot of the notable skibbereen moments with the World Championships over the years. So it starts off with Nuala Lupton back in 1975. She was the first skibbereen rower ever to row at the World Championships. What's that now? That's 48 years ago. Jesus, that's and Nuala is rowing royalty. So I go from there all the way through to now. So that, again, that's well worth sussing out. We also have a lovely piece by Matthew Hurley on how Fiona Keating and Saoirse McCarthy are keeping and putting Courcey Rovers Camogie on the map. Matthew caught up with Christine O'Neill of Courcey's to chat about Fiona and Saoirse. One of our feature matches this week was the Cork Ladies Junior A Football Championship West Cork Derby between O'Donovan Rossa and Bantry Blue. So we have a full page on that as a rampant Rossas. I think they sent out a statement of intent to the rest of the championship that they're a team to watch. We also have a preview of Inishannon and Courcey's are playing in the Senior Camogie Championship this week. Also, Dylan, I want to flag an important story that we have in Thursday's Southern Star, and it's about Bantry GA Club. They're highlighting as their serious concerns with the disciplinary process after an underage incident in a game back in September 2021. I'm not going to say too much about the story. Our listeners can check it out in Thursday's Southern Star, which you can obviously get in shops or online. But this is an incident that happened in an under-17 game between Bantry Blues and the Piercing that left a 16-year-old Bantry player injured. And it's Bantry Blues are just frustrated with the disciplinary process and what happened after that, and the sanctions imposed, how the process unfolded, how long it took. So it's a story, I think, that our listeners, it's an important local story, and our listeners should get their hands in the Southern Star to read that, and they can make their own conclusions from it. Also plenty going on in terms of West Cork soccer. Joe McCarthy has his preview of the West Cork League. We have the next All-Ireland road bowling series is on in Waterford this weekend, and we've local interest there too. So there is something for everyone in this Thursday Southern Star, whether it's athletics or road bowling or tag rugby, you name it, we have it. So well worth checking out.
packed as always, and all that will be available in shops across West Cork from Thursday morning. And as always, if you're further afield or you can't make it to the shops, you can subscribe to the Southern Star and get it on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just go to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week, along with full access to all the premium articles on our website as well. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get yours, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening.